Are you're live?
Yes, we are.
What's up,
Okay.
motherfuckers? It's the Alan Show featuring Alan, uh, the Jam, Horror Fanatic, and some gunslinger, some guy by the name of Gunslinger,
He's new.
Christmas, or some I don't know,
Hello, hello.
Christmas Lander, Bring Back Frid, and the miserable excuse for a human life known as Prometer Ent.
Oh, I don't think that's bueno for YouTube, buddy.
God dang it. Hey, it's not NSFW. It doesn't show anything uncensored.
I mean,
Okay.
it shows someone. Doesn't matter.
Do you think the bots will be able to pick that up?
Well, I don't give a shit. Just 5 minutes
I
ago,
don't know.
my
You're a small channel. I
my-
don't think
that
that they're
little.
going to.
Enforce their rules?
I mean, 5 minutes ago, my fucking father just screeched at me about some, but
I mean, like 4 days ago, I uploaded this video.
The one about the guy falling in the hole?
Yeah.
Someone had to go.
Yeah.
Who left?
The dude
Gunslinger.
that was deafened for like a while.
I was thinking, like, in your video thing, the Jam,
Uh-huh.
you could have, like, edited the stop sign, right? Instead of saying Pada, you could have made it say something else. Like, I
I
don't
could
know.
have like taken off the E and made it just say par.
Yeah, yeah. That was the first thing that came to mind, but then I realized that it didn't say par. You know what today's episode is called?
Today's episode is called Slaughterhouse-5.
Today's episode
The
is called...
Squeakquel.
I want to.
It's
And
called
I
episode
am
11 because that's the episode that we were supposed
And
to
I am
continue.
5 steps away from slaughtering everyone in this fucking house.
Is that a
That's a
line?
fucking joke. That's a
Is that a
joke.
real thing?
No, is that a reference to something?
No.
Okay. Are you ready to start the Jam?
Yes, I am.
For legal reasons, that's a joke. For legal reasons, that's a joke. For legal reasons, joke, joke, joke. Please, a joke's a joke.
Project, are you ready to start?
We already fucking started.
Are you ready to actually start then? Start the reading.
I don't like you, T-Series. Nothing personal, kid. I must go all out. Just this once. Robs or vegan, yo, whichever will it be. Sit the frick down, T-Series. I'm here to spill the real tea. You trying to dethrone me from spot on number 1, but you India, you lose. So best think you haven't won. When I'm through with you, we're gonna be completely fucking done.
I could sing the whole song too, but a musical gag is just about the last thing that I'm willing to let myself do.
Okay.
I don't know why. It's not something that I want to do. Do we actually know anyone who's Italian? Like,
Rocky is Italian.
Really?
Is that racist?
I'm from China, bitch. China.
Hold on.
I'm Anglo-Saxon.
Oh, really? What does that entail?
Oh, that's just like a broad way of saying that your ancestry comes from like the Germanic region.
Yeah, but that's like a big region. So...
Well, yeah, that's why I say that, because a good majority of my ancestry lies within that region, but like it's a lot of different things.
Okay. So is that why you understand German and Russian, or is that just you?
I think that's just me.
Oh.
Let's see if Rocky will be alive to confirm whether or not he's Italian.
You have to give him an. You have
So
to give him
come
an
on,
order.
So come on, B series, delete your channel, please. I'ma serve you bobs with cheese.
Yeah, fucking fight right now with a girl named Angel.
A physical fight with somebody? Are you having difficulty gaining advantage?
This woman is just copying everything I say, so.
All right. This short little GIF right here is an instruction manual on how to be Italian.
I can understand that. So if I just do that, I can become Italian?
Yeah. If you do it 15 minutes a day for a month, I think you can get as high as 10% Italian from just doing that.
How can I achieve the rest of the 90% then?
Just continue working at it. The higher you go with it, the longer it'll take to get even 1%. But if you keep at it, you might even hit purebred Italian 100%. All right, yeah. So right there, Rocky has confirmed that he is in fact Italian.
That's nice.
Oh yeah, right. When should we start the reading?
We can start now. Can you?
All right. Would you like me to start, or would you like to?
I'd like you to start.
All right. The Germans and the dog were engaged in military operation, which had an amusingly self-explanatory name. A human enterprise which is seldom described in detail, whose name alone, when reported as news or history, gives many war enthusiasts a sort of post-coital satisfaction. It is the imagination of combat fans, the divinely listless love play that follows the orgasm of victory, called mopping up. The dog who had sounded so ferocious in the winter distances was a female German shepherd. She was shivering, her tail was between her legs. She had been borrowed that morning from a farmer. She had never been to war before. She had no idea what game was being played. Her name was Princess. Two of the Germans were boys in their early teens. Two were ramshackle old me rulers as toothless as carp. They were regulars, armed and clothed fragmentally with junk taken from real soldiers who were nearly dead. So it goes.
So it goes.
They were farmers from just across the German border, not far away. Their commander was a middle-aged corporal, red-eyed, scrawny, tough as dried beef, sick of war. He had been wounded 4 times and patched up and sent back to war. He was a very good soldier about to quit, about to find somebody to surrender to. His bandy legs were thrust into golden cavalry boots, which he had taken from a dead Hungarian colonel on the Russian front. So it goes.
So it goes.
Those boots were almost all he owned in this world. They were his home. An antidote. One time a recruit was watching him bone and wax those golden boots, and he held up one to the recruit and said, "If you look there deeply enough, you'll see Adam and Eve." Billy Pilgrim had not heard this anecdote, but lying there on the black ice there, Billy stared into the patina of the corporal's boots, saw Adam and Eve in the golden depths. They were naked. They were so innocent, so vulnerable, so eager to behave decently. Billy Pilgrim loved them.
The jam. I feel like we're kind of leaving the, we're leaving Horror Fanatic and Treelander in the dark here. They don't know what the setting is. They don't know what's going on, right?
Oh yeah, sorry.
All right, so basically the first chapter was Kurt Vonnegut's own story about writing the book itself and explaining the background that he had in Dresden and how this is a book about war in his own words.
Can we sorry, go ahead.
Yes.
I just wanted to say to that point, I remember the part where the Kurt was talking to his wife, right? And his wife was getting angry and upset of how the book might promote war or war sentiments. Might
Oh yeah, I remember that.
and
His
yeah, I feel like that's like a highlight of the first chapter that we can also read to them if they're interested in understanding what happened in the first chapter.
Oh,
Huh?
nothing.
okay.
The Jam?
Yes.
Uh, what's the second chapter like then?
Well, the second chapter's basically about Billy Pilgrim and how well he believes that he has. Well, it second chapter kind of takes us through his entire life and tells us like what leads him up to this point.
Okay.
And then uh this book is very hard to explain, but basically the second chapter is both about how he became unstuck in time
Okay.
and like it's really quite hard to explain, but in my own words, I'd say it's almost kind of about his either a mental illness or he is telling the truth about the aliens, about how like as of right now he is seeing time non-linearly where he'll blink his eyes and he'll be at another snippet in his life. And as of right now, the snippet that we are on is about him and Weary. Now Weary, he is a US Army soldier that kind of believes himself to be some sort of hotshot when in reality he like all his life really has no friends or anything, and that fact angers him quite a bit, and he tends to lash out quite a bit. And last chapter, he was lashing out at
Billy, right?
Billy Pilgrim.
Yeah.
And Billy Pilgrim, he was just
He was taking it.
he was a chaplain's assistant, so he's never really seen war or even a real fight. So he was just taking it, and that's when a group of Germans saw them.
I think like the last part of the book said something right. Weary drew back his right boot, aimed a kick at the spine, at the tube which had so many of Billy's important wires in it. Weary was going to break that tube, but then Weary saw that he had an audience. 5 German soldiers and a police dog on a leash were looking down into the bed of the creek. The soldiers' blue eyes were filled with bleary civilian curiosity as to why one American would try to murder another, one so far from home, and why the victim should laugh. And that's the last part we left on. So that's what's going on. And the Jam just read basically a description of the German soldiers. So I feel like you guys are all caught up then. So with that, we're gonna continue.
Okay. All right, so that means do you want to read page 26 and then we'll go on so forth?
Yeah, like before.
Yeah.
Next to the golden boots were a pair of feet which swaddled in rags, They were crisscrossed by canvas straps.
The whole thing about how.
About what?
Well, me and my dad just kind of for a little bit, just yelled at each other for a little bit. That's it. Just loud as shit.
We didn't catch that.
Oh, I didn't either.
Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Do you want to continue?
Yeah.
They were crisscrossed by canvas straps, were shod with hinged wooden clogs. Billy looked up at the face that went with the clogs. It was the face of a blonde angel of 15-year-old boy. The boy was as beautiful as Eve. Billy was helped to his feet by the lovely boy, by the heavenly androgyny, and the others came forward to the dust of the snow off Billy. To dust the snow off Billy. And then they searched him for weapons. He didn't have any. The most dangerous thing they found on his person was a 2-inch pencil stub. And that kind of relates how I think you were saying, like, Billy isn't used to war. That's not his thing. He's not a,
Well, yeah,
not a fighter.
even though he has been in the war, he hasn't really participated due to his role.
3 inoffensive bangs came from far away. They came from German rifles. The 2 scouts who had ditched Billy and Weary had just been shot. They had been lying in ambush for Germans. They had been discovered and shot from behind. Now they were dying in snow, feeling nothing, turning the snow to the color of raspberry sherbet.
So it goes.
So Roland Weary was the last of the 3 musketeers, and Weary, bug-eyed with terror, was being disarmed. The corporal gave Weary's pistol to the pretty boy. He marveled at Weary's cruel trench knife, said in German that Weary would no doubt like to use the knife on him, to tear his face off with the spiked knuckles, to stick the blade into his belly or throat. He spoke no English, and Billy and Weary understood no German. Nice playthings you have, the corporal told Weary, and he handed the knife to an old man. Isn't that a pretty thing, Or is it more like or What do you say?
I think it'd be almost like, isn't that a pretty thing?
Okay.
Oh, it's really kind of up to interpretation, of course.
As to the matter of how many M's are after the H, right?
Yeah, yeah. I bet in one print of this book, there's probably like 20 M's after that H.
Right, right. He tore open Weary's overcoat and blouse. Brass buttons flew like popcorn. The corporal reached into Weary's gaping bosom, as though he meant to tear out his pounding heart. But he brought out Weary's bulletproof Bible instead. A bulletproof Bible. I have to get that. Hold on. Give me a moment.
Alright, sounds good.
I just looked at the thumbnail and I'm like not very. I'm like, all right. There's like, I don't want to sound like a pussy, but can we change it? I don't want to get.
Fine. Here's Fred.
I don't know. I think that looks like a nice little children's crusade they have going on there.
You're looking at the thumbnail, is that it?
Yeah.
I tried to pick something nice I found off Google. I feel like I feel like it works, right? That would be
Yeah,
that would be a children's crusade, right? You know, enjoying life and whatnot. Who's Airhead? Hashtag bring back Fred. I don't know who Airhead is.
Oh, a pedophile.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's not a I don't know, a warm-hearted joke.
Oh, Airhead. I don't have a lot of ill will towards the man. I mean, like, you know, he's human, but like, he did like go hard into alt lolly stuff, which I wasn't a personal fan of.
Hmm.
But hey, you know, everyone has their faults. Some are just bigger than others.
That's true.
I mean, hey, at least it's not fucking chat base.
Yeah. At least he didn't go all like Jeffrey Dahmer on anyone. That's good.
I mean, he went Jeffrey Dahmer when he sent. I have to expose it now.
Yeah.
Airhead was the one who actually says meth.
Which one?
This one, you know.
Oh, the
But
one
it,
that projects keep
Oh,
using?
yeah.
That's one?
yeah, the one with Fartsy. Yeah, it was edited from this.
Oh. That is nice.
Someone should edit Alan saying that.
I could use that as the thumbnail for the next episode.
Heck yes.
Use.
I would do that, yeah.
You could use this version. You could use this version.
I'm thankful that you put a spoiler on that one.
No, Jam, fuck off. That's what started the fight with my dad.
Oh, really?
Remove it
Oh,
right
really?
now.
God damn it, the Jam. What the hell did you do to his
Remove
family?
it right
I think
now.
I just had this. I think I just
Wait,
Hello,
what?
Peyton. How are you doing?
Wait, the project. Oh crap. Oh, wait. Peachen, how are you in both BCs at the same time?
He's on.
Because I can be, okay, Jam? Don't worry about it.
He's a maniac, okay? Just leave her be.
Oh, there.
General Kenobi. Yeah, I didn't realize that. God damn it.
You did it again, the Jam. Have you learned nothing from this book? Have you learned nothing?
I've learned a lot of things from this book, but my main thing I learned from it is that life doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, the vibe that I'm getting from this book is that you shouldn't take things lightly. Like you should take
You put a terminar.
things should be cared for. That's the vibe that I'm getting from this
Yo
book.
fuera a acabar en casa con ustedes ya muertos de viejos, sin ningún dinero, en la calle. Eso no sería muy bueno.
His
Eso
dad got another
significaría que sería
seizure
un
again.
fracaso en la sociedad.
Can anyone translate?
I can, but I'd rather not.
Okay. Is he calling me a white supremacist?
Not at all.
Okay.
No, I'm not calling you a white supremacist. I'm saying that the seizure bullshit that just passes through the spoiler filter is like just pissed my dad off.
Okay. Is he in the server?
No.
Okay.
But he is definitely like, but he definitely want it. But you see, this is the reason why I don't want my parents around when I'm doing anything on the fucking laptop, because once I was on Tim server and she just looked at the fucking screen.
I think I understand.
Just stared at it. it wasn't it wasn't because he was peeping at me, but ah,
Does the seizure thing bother him? Does it have an effect on him?
well, any sort. Well, he was like. Well,
I'm
he
asking
thinks that
because
if he can notice anything, any sort of sound coming from these fucking headphones when I'm wearing them, he thinks it's the loudest shit ever.
Okay, we'll try to keep it down and not use this kind of sensorily sensitive content, right, the Gem?
Yes. Instead, I will
If
post
it does
this. Oh yeah, right. We were reading.
Yeah, let's continue.
Yes.
I would like to say that it is interesting that we are developing two different interpretations of this book, the Gem.
Yeah. Well, it's the type of book that is. It's good that there are different interpretations of it because I suppose you could say it's almost like a different book for everyone. Or maybe, I don't know.
That's a good way of putting it. I
Yeah.
just don't exactly have the words to agree
Yeah,
with your statement.
It's kind of a bold statement, anyways. Like, I feel like the best thing to do right now is to keep reading. I suppose. I don't know.
Okay, let's continue then.
Yes.
Okay. The corporal found the dirty picture of a woman and the pony in Weary's hip pocket. What a lucky pony, eh? He said. Hmm? Don't you wish you were that pony? He handed the picture to the other old man. Spoils of war. It's all yours, you lucky lad. Thank you, Project. Then he made Weary sit down in the snow and take off his combat boots, which he gave to the beautiful boy. He gave Weary the boy's clogs. So Weary and Billy were both without decent military footwear now, and they had to walk for miles and miles with Weary's clogs clacking, with Billy bobbing up and down, crashing into Weary from time to time. Excuse me, Billy would say, or I beg your pardon. They were brought at last to a stone cottage at a fork in the road. It was a collecting point for prisoners of war. Billy and Weary were taken inside. Where it was warm and smoky. There was a fire sizzling and popping in the fireplace. The fuel was furniture. There were about 20 other Americans in there, sitting on the floor with their backs to the wall.
Sitting on the floor. Nothing.
Staring into the flames, thinking whatever there was to think, which was zero. Nobody talked. Nobody had any good war stories to tell.
Billy and Weary found them places for themselves, and Billy went to sleep with his head on the shoulder of an unprotesting captain. The captain was a chaplain. He was a rabbi. He had been shot through the hand. Billy traveled in time, opened his eyes, found himself staring into the glass eye of a jade-green mechanical owl. The owl was hanging upside down from a rod of stainless steel. The owl was Billy's optometer in the office in Ilium, An optometer is an instrument for measuring refractive errors in eyes in order that corrective lenses may be prescribed. Billy had fallen asleep while examining a female patient who was in a chair on the other side of the aisle. She had fallen asleep at work before. It had been funny at first. Now Billy was starting to get worried about it, about his mind in general. He tried to remember how old he was. He couldn't. Tried to remember what year it was. He couldn't remember that either. Doctor, said the patient tentatively. Hmm? He said. You're so quiet. Sorry. You were talking away there and then you got so quiet. You see something terrible? Terrible? Some disease in my eyes? No, no, Billy said, wanting to doze again. Your eyes are fine. You just need glasses for reading. He told her to go across the corridor to see the wide section of the frames there. When she was gone, Billy opened up the drapes and was no wiser to what was outside. The view was still blocked by a Venetian blind, which he hoisted cateringly. Bright sunlight came crashing in. There were thousands of parked automobiles out there twinkling on the vast lake of a blacktop. Billy's office was part of a suburban shopping center. Right outside the window was Billy's own Cadillac Eldorado Coupe de Villa. He read the stickers on the bumper. Visit Ostable Chasm, said one. Report your police department, said another. There was a third. Impeach Earl Warren, and it said, the stickers about the police and Earl Warren were gifts from Billy's father-in-law, a member of the John Birch Society. The date on the license plate was 1967, which would make Billy Pilgrim 44 years old. He asked himself this. Where have all the years gone? Billy turned his attention to his desk. There was an open copy of the Review of Optometry there. It was open to an editorial which Billy now read, his lips moving slightly. What happens in 1968 will ruin the fare of the European optometrist for at least 50 years, Billy read. With this warning, Jean Thierhart, secretary of the National Union of Belgium Opticians, is pressing for formation of a European optometry society. The alternatives, he says, will be obtaining the professional status, or by 1971, reduction of the role of spectacle sellers. Billy Pilgrim tried hard to care.
Can you try to reiterate what's going on in the last two paragraphs?
Oh, sorry, was I kind of...
No, I just, can you like, I don't know, can you like word it differently? It was kind of hard for me to interpret, if I could say that.
Okay, yeah, of course. So basically, like, Billy was... Well, he found himself kind of at a loss for words when he kind of snapped back to it in his office of optometry. And his patient was getting kind of worried, and they tried to grab his attention, and he simply told them that they needed glasses for reading. And Billy, reflected upon what he has right here, and he was looking at, oh wow, I'm 44 years old. This is kind of a shock, and he thought, where have all these years gone? And turns attention to his desk about the Review of Optometry, which, well, it was an editorial about something that'll happen soon. They'll rule the fare of European optometrists for at least 50 years. And I think it's something about the formation of a European optometry society, which will drastically change the way that his career is run, but he simply doesn't seem to care what's going on with it.
Is this like is this referring to the European Union in any way?
It could be, because it is a war book. Yeah.
Who was that girl?
Maybe
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
maybe this is a commentary on about how, like, the forming of the European Union has kind of affected the way that people view the world in general, because, well, through the lens of optometry is allegorical. in a certain sense of the word.
I can definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I just don't know, because this is the first time we're hearing of it. I mean, I guess we'd have to keep reading. I guess we'd have
I
to
suppose so.
find another reference to the European Optometry Society to know exactly what Kurt is trying to get at here.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely plenty of more optometry related references in this book, I can
Right.
say.
Right. You said it was like one of the themes of the book, right?
Well, at least one of the things that I was able to take away from it, but there are quite a few reoccurring themes that you can study in this book, I suppose.
Right. And we talked about those briefly in the last episode.
Yes, I believe so.
Um. It's my turn, right?
Yes.
A siren went off, scared the hell out of him. He was expecting the Third World War at any time. The siren was simply announcing high noon. It was housed in a cupola, right?
Yeah.
Cupola atop a firehouse, and that's like what's that? It's like the thing that has the bell in it, right?
I'll look that up real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, it appears so. Yeah, I suppose, well, based on the way that this current situation is framed, he probably has not heard of Bell Tower before.
Right. Billy closed his eyes. When he opened them, he was back in the Second World War again. His head was on the wounded rabbi's shoulder. A German was kicking his feet, telling him to wake up, that it was time to move on. The Americans, with Billy among them, formed a fool's parade on the road outside. There was a photographer present, a German war correspondent with a Lycia? What's a Lycia? Or Leica? Can you look that up while I continue reading?
Yeah.
Okay. He took pictures of Billy's and Roland Weary's feet. Ooh, feet pics. The picture was widely published 2 days later as heartening evidence of how miserably equipped the American army often was, despite its reputation for being rich. The photographer wanted something more lively, so a picture of an actual capture.
I guess a Leica is a camera.
Okay. But like a really old camera, right?
Yes.
That would explain why it was capitalized.
Mm.
Okay. So the guards staged one for him. They threw Billy into shrubbery. When Billy came out of the shrubbery, his face breathed in goofy goodwill. They menaced him with their machine pistols as though they were capturing him then. Billy's smile as he came out of the shrubbery was at least peculiar as Mona Lisa's, for he was simultaneously on foot in Germany in 1944 and riding his Cadillac in 1967. Germany drooped away, and 1967 became bright and clear, free of interference from any other time. Billy was on his way to a Lions Club luncheon?
Yeah,
Lu-
luncheon.
Oh, luncheon. Okay. Luncheon meeting. It was a hot August, but Billy's car was air conditioned. He was stopped by a signal in the middle of Ilium's black ghetto. The people who lived there hated it so much that they had burned down a lot of it a month before. It was all they had, and they wrecked it. The neighbor reminded Billy of some of the towns he had seen in the war. The curbs and sidewalks were crushed in many places, showing where the National Guard tanks and half-tracks had been. Blood Brother said a message written in pink on the side of a shattered grocery store. There was a tap on Billy's car window. A black man was out there. He wanted to talk about something. The light had changed. Billy did the simplest thing. He drove on. Billy drove through a scene of even greater desolation. It looked like Dresden after it was firebombed, like the surface of the moon. The house where Billy had grown up used to be somewhere in what was so empty now. This was urban renewal. A new Ilium, government center and pavilion of the arts, and a peace lagoon and high-rise apartment buildings were going up here soon. That was all right with Billy Pilgrim. The speaker at the Lions Club meeting was a major in Marines.
All right, I gotta do something.
Okay, Project.
Okay.
Was a major in the Marines. He said that Americans had no choice but to keep fighting in Vietnam until they achieved victory, or until the communists realized that they could not force their way of life on weak countries. The major had been there on 2 separate tours of duty. He told of many terrible and many wonderful things he had seen. He was in favor of increased bombings of North Vietnam back into the Stone Age if it refused to see reason. Oh.
Billy was not moved to protest the bombing of North Vietnam. He did not shudder about the hideous things he himself had seen bombing do. He was simply having lunch with the Lions Club, of which he was now past president of. Billy had a framed prayer on his office wall which expressed his methods for keeping going, even though he was unenthusiastic about living. A lot of patients who saw the prayer on Billy's wall told him that it helped them to keep going too. It went on like this: God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom always to tell the difference. Among the things Billy Pilgrim could not change were the past, the present, and the future. Now he was being introduced to the Marine Major. The person who was performing the introduction was telling the Major that Billy was a veteran, and that Billy had a son who was a sergeant in the Green Berets in Vietnam. The Major told Billy that the Green Berets were doing a great job and that he should be proud of his son. I certainly am, said Billy Pilgrim. He went home for a nap after lunch. He was under doctor's orders to take a nap every day. The doctor hoped that he would relieve a complaint that Billy had. Every so often, for no apparent reason, Billy Pilgrim would find himself weeping. Nobody had ever caught Billy doing it, only the doctor knew. It was an extremely quiet thing Billy did, not very moist. Billy owned a lovely Georgian home in Ilium. He was rich as Croesus, something he had never expected to be, not in a million years. He had 5 other optometrists working for him in the shopping plaza location, and netted over $60,000 a year. In addition, he owned a fifth of the new Holiday Inn on Route 54 and half of 3 Tasty Freezy stands. Tasty Freezy was a sort of frozen custard. Gave him all the pleasure an ice cream could give without the stiffness and bitter coldness of ice cream. Billy's home was empty. His daughter Barbara was about to get born, and she and his wife had gone downstairs to pick out patterns for crystal and silverware. There was a note saying so on the kitchen table. There were no servants. People weren't interested in careers in domestic service anymore. There wasn't a dog either.
There used to be a dog named Spot, but he died. So it
So it goes.
Billy had liked Spot a lot, and Spot had liked him. Billy went up the carpeted stairway into his and his wife's bedroom. The room had flowered wallpaper. There was a double bed with a clock radio on a table beside it. Also on the table were controls for the electric blanket and a switch to turn on a gentle vibrator which was bolted to the springs of the box mattress. The trade name of the vibrator was Magic Fingers. The vibrator was the doctor's idea too. Billy took off his trifocals and his coat and his necktie and his shoes, and he closed the closed the what? Venetian blinds. Oh, is that this? That's the second time we're hearing of Venetian blinds, right? The gem.
I believe so.
The first time was in the when they were taking. It was when they were taken into that American prisoner thing, or prisoners of war for the German prison house, whatever thing, right?
Yeah. That's actually one of the things I had not picked up on before. I picked up on like optometry, but not that.
We'll just leave it at that then. We can talk about it
Yeah.
later. And then the drapes, and let me pull back a little bit. Billy took off his trifocals and his coat and his necktie and his shoes, and he closed the Venetian blinds.
Oh shit.
Hey, Projack, what's up?
Nothing.
You want to join us again? Or are you just popping in to say hi?
Just listening.
Okay.
I was just listening for the last minutes.
Okay. Billy took off his trifocals. No, let's not start there. And he closed the Venetian blinds and then the drapes. And he lay down on the outside of the coverlet. But sleep would not come. Tears came instead. They seeped. Billy turned on the magic fingers, and he was jiggled as he wept. The door chimes rang. Billy got off the bed and looked down through a window at the front doorstep to see if anybody important had come to call. There was a crippled man down there, as spastic in space as Billy Pilgrim was in time. Convulsions made the man dance flappingly all the time, made him change his expressions, too, as though he were trying to imitate various famous movie stars. Another cripple was ringing a doorbell across the street. He was in crutches. He had only one leg. He was so jammed between his crutches that his shoulders hid his ears. Billy knew what the cripples were up to. They were selling subscriptions to magazines that would never come. People subscribed to them because the salesmen were so pitiful. Billy had heard about this racket from a speaker at the Lions Club 2 weeks before. A man from the Better Business Bureau. The man said that anybody who saw cripples working a neighborhood for magazine subscriptions could call the police. Billy looked down the street, saw a new, what? Buick Rivera?
Yeah, Buick.
Buick,
That's a type of car.
right. Saw a new Buick Rivera parked about half a block away. There was a man in it, and Billy assumed correctly that he was the man who had hired the cripples to do this thing. Billy went on weeping as he contemplated the cripples and their boss. His door chimes clanged hellishly. He closed his eyes and opened them again. He was still weeping, but he was back in Luxembourg again. He was marching with a lot of other prisoners. It was a winter wind that was bringing tears to his eyes. Ever since Billy had been thrown into shrubbery for the sake of the picture, he had been seeing St. Elmo's fire, a sort of electronic radiance around the heads of his companions and captors. It was in the treetops and on the rooftops of Luxembourg too. It was beautiful. Billy was marching with his hands on top of his head, and so were all the other Americans. Billy was bobbing up and down, up and down. Now he crashed into Roland Weary accidentally. "I beg your pardon," he said. Weary's eyes were so tearful also. Weary was crying because of horrible pains in his feet. The clogs, the hinged clogs, were transforming his feet into bloody puddings. At each road intersection, Billy's group was joined by more Americans with their hands on top of their haloed heads. Billy had smiled for them all. They were moving like water down hill all the time, and they flowed at last to a main highway on a valley's floor. Though the valleys flowed a Mississippi of humiliated Americans, tens of thousands of Americans shuffled eastward, their hands clasped on top of their heads.
They sighed and groaned. Billy and his group joined the river of humiliation, and the late afternoon sun came out from the clouds. The Americans didn't have the roads to themselves. The westbound lane boiled and boomed with vehicles which were rushing German reserves to the front. The reserves were violent, windburned, bristly men. They had teeth like piano keys. They were festooned with machine gun belts, smoked cigars, and guzzled booze. They took wolfish bites from sausages, patted their horny palms with tomato masher grenades. One soldier in black was having a drunk herd's picnic all by himself on top of a tank. He spit on the Americans. The spit hit Ronald Weary's shoulder, gave Weary a free of snot and a blutwurst and tobacco sausage and schnapps. Billy found the afternoon stingingly exciting. There was so much to see: dragon's teeth killing machine, corpses with bare feet that were blue and ivory. So it goes.
So it goes.
Bobbing up and down, Billy beamed lovingly at the bright lavender farmhouse that had been splattered with machine gun bullets. Standing in its cockeyed doorway was a German colonel. With him was an unpainted horror. Billy crashed into Weary's soldier, and Weary cried out sobbingly, "Walk right, walk right." They were climbing a gentle rise now. When they reached the top, they weren't in Luxembourg anymore. They were in Germany. A motion picture camera was set up at the border to record the fabulous victory. 2 civilians in bearskin coats were leaning on the camera when Billy and Weary came by. They had run out of film hours ago. One of them singled out Billy's face for a moment, then focused at Infinity again. There was a tiny plume of smoke at Infinity. There was a battle there. People were dying there. So it goes.
So it goes.
The sun went down, and Billy found himself bobbing in place in a railroad yard. There were rows and rows of boxcars waiting. They'd brought reserves to the front. Now they were going to take prisoners into Germany's interior. Flashlight beams danced crazily. Germans sorted out the prisoners according to rank, put sergeants with sergeants, majors with majors, and so on. Squad full of colonels was halted near Billy. One of them had double pneumonia. He had high fever and vertigo. As the railroad yard dipped and swooped around the colonel, he tried to hold himself steadily by staring into Billy's eyes. The colonel coughed and then said to Billy, "You one of my boys?" This was a man who had lost an entire regiment, about 4,500 men, out of them children, actually. Billy didn't reply. The question made no sense. "What was your outfit?" said the colonel. He coughed and coughed. Every time he inhaled, his lungs rattled like greasy paper bags. Billy couldn't remember the outfit he was from. "You from the 41st? 41st what?" said Billy. There was a silence. "Infantry regiment," the colonel said at last.
Oh, said Billy Pilgrim. There was another long silence, with the colonel dying and dying, drowning where he stood. And then he sighed out wetly. "It's me, boys. It's Wild Bob." That is what he had said. That is what he had always wanted his troop to call him, Wild Bob. None of the people who could hear him were actually from his regiment, except for Roland Weary, and Weary wasn't listening. All Weary could think of was the agony in his own feet. But the colonel imagined that he was addressing his beloved troops for the first time, and he told them that they had nothing to be ashamed of, and that there were dead Germans all over the battlefield who wished to God that they had never heard of the 451st of the 451st. Had a bit of trouble with that one because it's what do you call that? When everything starts with the same first sound, alliteration.
Alliteration?
Yeah.
Yes.
Give me a second.
Oh,
Okay. He said that after the war he was going to have a regimental reunion in his hometown, which was Cody, Wyoming. He was going to barbecue whole steers. He said all this while staring into Billy's eyes. He made the inside of poor Billy's skull echo with balderdash. "God be with you, boys," he said. And that echoed and echoed. And then he said, "If you're ever in Cody, Wyoming, just ask for Wild Bob. I was there. So was my old buddy of war, Bernard V. O'Hare." And O'Hare isn't that O'Hare that that company or whatnot that was referenced in the first chapter, right?
yeah, O'Hare was the war buddy that Kurt Vonnegut actually had. So I think that's well, kind of how this plays into it, because it's both simultaneously a story well, true story about Kurt Vonnegut, I think,
Hmm.
and also not, as he adds a lot of, well, fictional elements to it.
Billy Pilgrim was packed into a boxcar with many other privates. He and Roland Weary were separated. Weary was packed into another car in the same train. There were narrow ventilators at the corners of the car, under the caves. Billy stood by one of these, and, as the crowd pressed against him, he climbed part way up a diagonal corner to a diagonal corner brace to make more room. Misplaced his eyes, right? Misplaced his eyes. Is that it?
Maybe it's supposed to say he, but, well.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think I might suppose, well, should be he, but
Okay, it's
instead
he.
it's MS.
Okay. He placed his eyes on a level with the ventilator, so he could see another train about 10 yards away. Germans were writing on the cars with blue chalk the number of persons in each car, their rank, their nationality, the date on which they had been put aboard. Other Germans were securing the hasps on the car doors with wire and spikes and other trackside trash. Billy could hear somebody riding on his car too, but he couldn't see who was doing it. Most of the privates on Billy's car were very young, at the end of childhood, but crammed into the corner with Billy was a former hobo who was 40 years old. "I've been hungrier than this," the hobo told Billy. "I've been in worse places than this. This ain't so bad." A man in a boxcar across the way called out through the ventilator that a man. That a man? A man in a boxcar across the way called out through the ventilator that a man. Why does this send? Whatever. It's just the
I feel
PDF.
like the sentence isn't supposed to end there.
Right. That a man had just died in there. So it goes.
So it goes.
There were 4 guards who heard him. They weren't excited by the news. Yo, said one, nodding dreamily. Yo. And the guards didn't open the car with the dead man in it. They opened the next car instead. And Billy Pilgrim was enchanted by what was in there. It was like heaven. There was candlelight, and there were bunks with quilts and blankets heaped on them. There was a cannonball stove with a steaming coffee pot on top. There was a table with a bottle of wine and a loaf of bread and a sausage on it. There were 4 bowls of soup. There were pictures of castles and lakes and pretty girls on the walls. This was the rolling home of the railroad guards, men whose business it was to be forever guarding freight rolling from here to there. The 4 guards went inside and closed the door.
A little while later, they came out smoking cigars, talking confidently in the mellow, lower register of the German language. One of them saw Billy's face at the ventilator. He wagged a finger at him in an affectionate warning, telling him to be a good boy. The Americans across the way told the guards again about the dead man in their car. Guards got a stretcher out of their own cozy car, opened the dead man's car, and went inside. The Bedman's car wasn't crowded at all. There were just 6 live colonels in there and 1 dead one. The Germans carried the corpse out. The corpse was Wild Bob. So it goes.
So it goes.
During the night, some of the locomotives began to tootle to one another and then to move. The locomotive and the last car of each train were marked with striped banner of orange and black, indicating that the train was not fair game for airplanes, that it was carrying prisoners of war. The war was nearly over. The locomotives began to move east in late December. The war would end in May. German prisoners everywhere were absolutely full, and there was no longer any food for the prisoners to eat and no longer any fuel to keep them warm. And yet here came more prisoners. Billy Pilgrim's train, the longest train of all, did not move for 2 days. "This ain't bad," the hobo told Billy on the second day. "This ain't nothing at all." Billy looked through the ventilator. The railroad yard was a desert now, except for the hospital train marked with red crosses on one siding far, far away. Locomotive whistled. The locomotive of Billy Pilgrim's train whistled back. They were saying hello. Even though Billy's train wasn't moving, its boxcars were kept locked tight. Nobody was to get off until the final destination, so the guards who walked up and down outside each car became a single organism, which ate and drank and excreted through its ventilators. It talked or sometimes yelled through its ventilators too, and in went water and loaves of black bread and sausage and cheese, and out came shit and piss and language. Human beings, and there were string into steel helmets were passed to the people at the ventilators who dumped them. Billy was a dumper. The human beings also passed canteens, which guards would fill with water when the food came out. The human beings were quiet and trustful and beautiful. They shared. Human beings in there took turns standing or lying down. The legs of those who stood were like fence posts driven into a warm, squirming, fatting, dying earth. Where earth was a mosaic of sleepers who nestled like spoons. Now the train began to creep eastward. Somewhere in there was Christmas. Billy Pilgrim nestled like a spoon with the hobo on Christmas night and he fell asleep. Traveled in time to 1967 again to the night he was kidnapped by a flying saucer from Ralph Mador.
And I suppose the next chapter is about the trial from Mandorians, right?
Yeah, that's right.
If we continue the chapter, I think we're gonna go on for another hour.
Yeah, that's probably a good, I suppose, assumption.
A good metric, because we just passed the hour mark about 8 minutes ago.
Yeah.
How are you guys feeling? A Christmas Lander and project.
Christmas Lander, are you currently alive?
Currently alive. He's quite
He
tired.
says that he is quite tired.
And I do remember you yawning before we passed the page on the last one. So I assume that you're getting progressively tired. The jam.
Well, that's weird because I have pushed to talk and I haven't pushed in the whole talking.
Oh yeah. I keep pushing, but you ain't talking, Slick.
Well, damn, son, you caught me.
So what's your push to talk button?
You.
Oh, let me do something real quick.
I don't understand this. Why are you typing Q?
Because his push to talk button is Q, so he has to push Q to talk.
Wait, that was
You were
that
muted.
was fine. Well, it was fine. I just realized I was fucking.
You were talking the entire time.
Oh, you're talking the entire time, and you're that's a huge oof.
It's a yikes, right?
Yeah.
Yanks,
Yanks, sweetie.
X that.
That's like real problematic right there.
That's not very cash money of you, Project. to be quite honest.
I keep pushing, but you ain't talking slick.
Not an epic gamer moment. That's not that much of an epic gamer moment.
No, it's
for me.
probably more of a bruh moment, Project. Project. I know it's probably like 2 a.m. for you, right?
Yeah.
Are we fine ending it here and picking it up next week?
Yeah.
How about you, Jim?
I'm okay. But if you have a little bit of time, I wouldn't mind just talking about what you think of the current chapter. But
Okay, yeah.
like,
can you give me a second though? I have to get up right now. I'll be back.
okay, yeah.
Got turned up to crazy. Sounding like a washed up celebrity. Like a 4th of until we feel alright.
Oh. Oh.
What the fuck happened?
Oh, Treelander was showing me the combination of and O for the emotes.
Alan, did you do this? Are you gonna do the thing where you take the funny image of Yakko and making it the upvote downvote?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that. Just give me until tomorrow. I'll have that done.
Yes. Travis Scott burger. Travis Scott meal.
What do you think of the jam?
Yankee with no brim. Yankee with no brim.
This one.
Oh, let me just take a look at this. Oh, St. Elmo's Fire. Yeah, I think that kind of pertains to the current chapter that we were talking about.
Could you explain what that is? That reference kind of flew over my head.
Oh, I was just saying because, well, in the last chapter we were talking about chaplains and how he was a pastor boy, and well, you know, St. Elmo, that is an inherently religious idea of someone being a saint.
Ever since Billy had been thrown into the shrubbery for the sake of the picture, he had been seeing St. Elmo's fire, a short electronic radiance around the heads of his companions and captors. Oh, is it like a halo? Is that what it is?
I think so.
Uh,
let me take a look at who St. Elmo was.
Sure.
Also, I have two observations that
Yeah.
I can think of.
Yeah.
The blinds, maybe that's an illusion that as much as things change, they stay the same because the blinds were referenced both during the war and during his life as an optometrist.
The more things stay the same, the
Yes.
more things
I'm-
seem to change, the more
Hold
they
on.
stay the same. Don't you think it's strange? Oh, put your records on. I'll play my favorite song.
What's that song, Project?
Put your records on by
By what?
And well,
Can you post a link in the chat?
Karin Bailey Ray. No.
Okay.
oh,
Here's Here's the first.
No,
There's only 2 references to Venetian blinds in the entire book.
There are.
I just checked.
Okay.
I just checked. The first one says, when she was gone, Billy opened the drapes and was no wiser to what was outside. The view was still blocked by a Venetian blind. And that I misremembered where the Venetian blind was first referenced. It was first referenced when he was when he came out of the war and he was an optometrist again.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
And then, well, my other observation that I hope to touch upon was so basically, what was it? Oh, the constant use of the phrase bobbing up and down, up
Mm.
and down.
Mm.
I was thinking that is kind of a reference to the fact that his life has been kind of bouncing up and down, where, he experiences his almost perfect life as an optometrist juxtaposed directly with the life that he knew at war.
Alright.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to say that it's a perfect life?
Well, it's almost really as perfect life as you can hope for, where, you have your high points and your low points, but like when it's all said and done, it's
Maybe
about as good of a life as you can hope.
right. Maybe I should have asked, is it a life that you would want? If that's something that you're willing to entertain?
No, I'd say it's already something that I would say that experience already, because this year alone has already been quite the down, but well, as hopeless as things may seem sometimes, there's always going to be the upswing again. And life will return to normalcy.
But I suppose I don't think that Billy really has a normal because he's constantly going back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Is there anything that you would like to talk about?
I just think that towards the end of the chapter, right?
Uh-huh.
Kurt was going into this kind of explanation of what the train was like, right?
Uh-huh.
I think he was trying to explain how the train was like, it was alive basically. The train was a living, a breathing organism, right?
Uh-huh.
And that the train was made up of, and to me that kind of felt like Kurt was trying to Kurt was sort of explaining to me how like this the situations that people find themselves in contribute to a living thing. You know what I'm trying to say? Like
Yeah, like
the people in a church become a body, or the people in a school become uh, a, a thing that's alive.
the communities that we form could be considered alive in themselves. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of like that, but also like in the certain kind of way of like, if you find yourself in a terrible situation, like being in a prisoner train, then
Hmm.
you also are a part of that terrible situation in a way that's not very ignorable, I would say.
Yeah.
But I don't really know where to go with that. It's just something that came into my head.
Well, yeah, the first step to, well, an idea, or I guess not an idea, but like more of the first step. Ooh, I'm not even sure if I understand what I'm saying myself, but I guess I'm saying like the first step to a fully realized thought is just an idea.
Okay, I can sort of follow what you're getting at.
Yeah, which I mean, to be fair, I think what I just said is an idea in itself.
You're explaining your explanation of what you're explaining is an example of the explanation.
Yeah. Uh, that's kind of funny if I think about it.
The only thing that I want to get at before we end is
Uh-huh.
I want to know exactly what Saint Elmo's fire is. Like, what is it?
Oh, I found him on Wikipedia, and I suppose it looks like he is a famous martyr.
It says on a Google through the Scientific American, it says St. Elmo's fire is seen during thunderstorms when the ground below the storm is electrically charged.
Okay, the view is way more calm now.
So Erasmus may have become the patron of sailors because it is said to have continued preaching even after a thunderbolt struck the ground beside him. This prompted sailors who were in danger from sudden storms and lightning to claim his prayers. The electrical discharges at the mast heads of ships were read as a sign of his protection and came to be called St. Elmo's fire.
So it's kind of like
a divine protection.
Right. Can I say something?
Yes, you may.
I found this book while I was going through my old closet with my mom a few days ago. It's like a 90-day. I don't know. I said 90-day in the most Spanish accent I could have possibly said. Spanish or Spanish, whatever. It's a prayer book, right? It's called Our Daily Bread, and I think the first page in the book kind of pertains to the idea of Saint Elmo's fire. And like the page in the book goes through a psalm each day, and the first psalm is "Be still and know that I am God." And I don't want to go into. I don't want to read the entire page because I feel like that might be a bit much. But here I'll read a paragraph of what the page says. It's basically like the writer is going through the Psalms and how this like a psalm could kind of brighten your day or whatever, give you something to focus on. And one of the paragraphs in the page, it says that I think kind of relates to the idea of St. Elmo's fire. It says in Psalm 46, God flexes his omnipotent muscles, putting his power on display. Come and see what the Lord has done. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks down the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shield with fire. God is a busy God who works to create calm within the chaos of our days. And I feel like that relates to St. Elmo's fire because, like, even though things might be out of your control or whatever, it's like basically God is working in the background to keep you safe. I feel like that's the idea of St. Elmo's fire, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
And in the book, it said that Weary saw St. Elmo's fire above the heads of the captors and the what? The captors and his companions. So I feel like it's almost like It's almost like even though they find themselves the captors and the companions, the people at war, they find themselves at odds in a terrible situation, and they're kind of doing terrible things to each other, but even so, they're still protected by God, basically.
Recording?
Yes.
Huh.
What do you think of that?
Nothing.
No, I mean the
Sure.
jam. Sorry, Project.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of relates to the idea from St. Elmo's fire of like, the lightning struck right next to him, and the both of these people are dancing at the edge of death, yet the protection of God prevails.
I
Or,
don't know exactly what that would. Yeah?
I don't know.
I don't know exactly what that would entail either, but it's basically like everything's okay.
Yeah. I suppose that's kind of the great thing about a lot of literature that is open to interpretation, and while religious texts definitely are,
Sure.
but there's a reason that people have been reading them for thousands of years.
Sure. And
I guess, is there anything you'd want to end off on, or?
not really. We started out with so many people in the call, and now there's
Yeah,
only
then
3.
Lewis is all like, "Oh, wait, you guys are actually reading?" Well,
I did.
I'm a caveman, so I'm illiterate. I'm
Did
gonna have to leave, guys.
I mean, in a certain sense, like, did you not listen to what I was saying, Adolf? Like, I said I was gonna read the book. I said I was gonna read the book. I didn't lie.
Yeah.
But he was probably just goofing. No,
Yeah,
it is
probably.
what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's Lewis for you, man.
Um,
Alright. Well,
yeah,
always remember, Jesus loves you.
that is a true statement. Project, is there anything
Yes.
you want to say before we end?
I want to say that you guys should keep reading much more efficiently than me.
Okay. Do you not read as often, Project?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we're doing you solid then. We're doing you a good favor by going through this book together.